Earlier today we climbed the Bodie Island Lighthouse up above Oregon Inlet, and the goal was, after we did that, to come down to the Hatteras Lighthouse and climb that one as well. However, being that it's late June and the temperatures are extremely hot, and the camper is set up in a place where we don't have utilities other than the generator, which we can't use throughout the day because of, or throughout the night rather, because of the quiet hours, we decided to come down to the Hatteras Lighthouse, and rather than climbing it, just take a look at the grounds, take some photos and video, and check out the museum that's on the grounds, as well as the site where the original lighthouse was, and its current location where it was moved to in 1999 due to the extensive beach erosion which threatened the lighthouse. In 1799, the U.S. Congress authorized a lighthouse to be built at or near the site where the current lighthouse is, and there's been a lighthouse near here or at this site consistently since 1803. The lighthouse that you see today was lit in 1870, and in 1873 was painted in its black and white striped pattern, which is referred to as day mark. The day mark allows mariners to recognize the light from a distance during the day, and the flash pattern of the lamp identifies the light at nighttime. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is 198.5 feet tall and has 269 steps, and is roughly the equivalent of a 12 to 13 story building when you climb to the top. Up to 12 miles offshore of Cape Hatteras is a sandbar called Diamond Shoals, which poses a dangerous threat to shipping that travels north and south along the coastline of North Carolina. The Diamond Shoals sandbar is created when water from the Gulf Stream collides with a condition known as Virginia Drift, which is a branch of the Labrador Current which flows southerly out of Canada. The change in water currents off the coast of Cape Hatteras and the Outer Banks, and the creation of Diamond Shoals, are responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, of shipwrecks, giving the area and the water off the Outer Banks the nickname Graveyard of the Atlantic. According to a book that I read, it spoke about families and children that lived in the area around Buxton and the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. It said that during bad storms or hurricanes, children and families would take refuge in the base of the lighthouse. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse Museum is inside the lighthouse keeper's house, and it has a lot of interesting displays talking about the local history of the area, the history of this particular lighthouse, and the life-saving stations up and down the Outer Banks. The life-saving stations in the Outer Banks and the men who operated them got quite the reputation due to the Diamond Shoals and ships that were wrecked there and other ships that ran aground due to storms. Years later, the men that operated the life-saving stations would be rolled into the U.S. Coast Guard service. This shows the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse as it was in 1853 at a height of 150 feet, after 60 feet were added to the 90-foot tower. You see the color change in the sides of the tower from white to a darker color. The top was actually a red sandstone, which was the new section added. The old lighthouse tower was destroyed in 1872 after the current lighthouse was completed and lit in 1871. As I mentioned earlier, the black and white striped pattern on the outside of the current lighthouse helps identify the light during the day, and the flash pattern of the current lighthouse is every 7 1/2 seconds, helps identify the light at nighttime. This is a rib section of a hull of a ship that dates back to possibly the 1820s, but the exact ship that it belonged to is not known. The Cape Hatteras Light, or the lens, is known as a Fresnel lens, and the lens from this lighthouse is actually what's left of it is in the Graveyard of the Atlantic Museum down by the ferry loading dock on the south end of Hatteras Island. Just like Bodie Island Lighthouse to the north, the Fresnel lens was shipped here from France. Here's a 1909 photo of the Cape Hatteras Life-Saving Station and the men that manned it. It really had to take courage to launch an open longboat into the seas that were so rough that were destroying ships, causing men to have to be rescued. One of the more notable ships that sank off Cape Hatteras is the Monitor, which sank 12 miles offshore in 225 feet of water. Oftentimes, ships that sank off the Outer Banks, the materials from the ship or the cargo the ship was carrying were recovered by the island folks and reappropriated for use on the island, either in building homes or helping to feed the families that lived here. Back outside, we walked over to where the lighthouse was moved from. Here you can see one of the seawalls that was erected to try to slow down or stop the beach erosion that was threatening the lighthouse before it was moved.